All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dolby.io's first seasonal product release webinar. I'm excited to be here today. Doing seasonal releases has been on the to-do list for a while. I'm glad that we were able to finally make it happen. So please welcome, enjoy. We are going to be taking you through everything that's new and noteworthy from Dolby.io that launched in the first few months of 2023. It's crazy that it's already the end of April. This year is going by fast. So let's get started. Public service announcement. I like doing these at the beginning of every webinar so people know what's going to be happening. Number one, this webinar will be recorded. So if you don't want to go down on the record doing something silly, making a dumb joke like I am right now, please don't do it. Point two. Please submit questions during the presentation. There is a Q&A box on the right side of your screen. If you're curious about something that we're presenting, if you want to learn more, or if you're just, wanting to say hi, introduce yourself and where you're from, go ahead, do it in the right box on the screen. Last and certainly not least, we value feedback. Feedback is a gift. So if you have an idea of how we can improve this webinar, future webinars, or how we communicate the value or the products that Dolby.io offers, go ahead, let us know. We would love to hear from you. Write us an email, write us on LinkedIn, just drop us a note in that chat box to the right. We'll definitely get back to you. Who we are. My name is Jonathan Calkins. I go by JC. I'm a senior manager covering product marketing here today. I am going to be joined by a couple of guests. The first is Ryan Jesperson. He is the director of product strategy here at Dolby.io. I'm also joined by Dan Coffey. I forgot to put his photos on today's webinar presentation. So instead, I'm going to be introducing my dogs. I have a dog named Benny as well as Allie. They like to bark. They like to bark a lot. So in case they run over here, start disrupting today's webinar, I apologize. I will do my best to quickly quiet them and then get them out of the office. Words. Why we are here today, it is spring. The snow is finally melting. Here in California, it has been a crazy winter. I think we got 300 or 400% of our annual rainfall, and it's not even the end of our rain season. That means there's just crazy amounts of snow up in the mountains. Hopefully that's going to change. But with spring, that means it's a seasonal release webinar. So next slide. We're going to be taking you through our spring product releases. We're going to be talking about what's new and noteworthy from our communication side of the business. We're going to be talking about our new Web SDK 3.9. We have an awesome new live events sample app that I'm going to demo for you today. Ryan and Dan are going to take you through our streaming APIs updates. We have some cool stuff around multi-viewing and, remote monitor applications, new things in Unity, Unreal, as well as around SRT ingest. And we do have an exciting update about Oracle. So I hope you stay tuned for the entire webinar and just don't, cut out from the communications after the communications side, or I'll be doing that update. First and foremost, on the communication side of the business, we recently launched a new Dolby.io Communications Web SDK version 3.9. Now, what is this? Well, it's a Web SDK that is all about scaling interactivity. At Dolby.io, we're trying to envision what the future of online and virtual events look like, whether that's in a webinar platform, whether that's in a metaverse application. And we're realizing that how can you drive interactivity at scale has become something that you have to solve for. So with this new SDK, we can scale a conference to more than 100,000 concurrent viewers. And that is at sub-second latency. So it's interactive. People are seeing everything that is, from glass to glass in less than around 500 milliseconds. That's fast. We're also introducing a new feature around shared browser audio. So if you want to have a YouTube clip and play that audio into the conference, we can now support that with our new Web SDK. Likewise, you can do that from the desktop. If you have an audio or video track that you want to share into your conference, make sure people can hear and understand what you're playing. The new Play Audio Track feature does that. And we've introduced simulcast support for the VP8 codec in Safari. It makes it a much better experience and optimizes for different kinds of resolutions and bandwidth so that end viewers always are seeing, hearing, and understanding based off of their local internet conditions. The use cases for this new Web SDK 3.9, large scale events. We're targeting keynote presentations, any kind of webinar platform. If you're hosting a town hall, or if you're building that next generation metaverse, gaming, or virtual world application, take a look at our Web SDK. It's probably a good fit for you. Happy to answer questions, take you through what we're looking to do with it. All right. Next up is we have a live events sample app. What is this? High level, it's an open source sample app that has everything you need to get started building your own, online or virtual event application that includes Dolby quality audio, video, as well as that sub-second latency experience, that glass to glass in less than 500 milliseconds. One moment, my dog's barking. Sorry about that. Hey, Dan, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, you guys can hear me. So what are the features of this sample app? Well, we can still scale to that 100,000 concurrent viewers, and it has everything you need to test out Dolby I/O, screen sharing, recording, automatic background noise reduction. Everything that you would benefit traditionally in our communications APIs has been packed into this samples app, so you can easily scale it. And rather than just showing screenshots or talking about this sample app live, I would love to give you a demo. So Ryan, can you stop screen share for a moment?
Yep, working on it.
Yep. Apologies to everyone joining today. It's a little bit buggy on our side, so bear with us as we move through the excitement.
There you go, JC.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So if you get anyone on the call, you want to test this out for yourself, you can just navigate to that Dolby I/O homepage, build your own virtual event app in minutes. We have all the features right here on the homepage, but we also have this easy to use demo experience to get you started. Actually, it includes a tutorial. One note on this demo experience, it's only going to run for 15 minutes. You're not able to actually host, an hour or an hour and a half webinar or virtual event on the demo. If you want to do that, please reach out to us. We'd love to learn more about your use case. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is JC, and let's do a spring release 23 webinar as our event title. Once we log in,
JC, we are seeing the Dolby I/O dashboard, though we're not seeing the screen that you're working on. There it is. That's the one.
There we go. So here we are. Let me just redo that demo then so you guys can see it. Are you still seeing screen or are you seeing me?
Waiting for screen share. There it is.
There we go. So if you navigate to that homepage, like I just said, you see all those top features and benefits that we went through a little bit earlier on the previous slide. You can just click View Demo, and it will take you to this demo page. It has a little tutorial. Like I said, it only runs for 15 minutes. You can go ahead and enter your name and then Spring Release 23 Webinar as our event title. And it's taking you through a tutorial right here. This is the backstage setup screen. So if you want to make sure all the presenters have their information ready before you go live, you can invite them using this URL. And you can also invite just the viewers who are going to be receiving the experience so they can understand what that audio fidelity, what that quality, what that experience looks like with Dolby I/O. You
JC,
can enter your session.
We lost it again.
All right. Rather than just hopping back and forth, I think there's an issue with the webinar platform today. Ryan, can you pull up the screen share that you were showing earlier? And I can just present the screenshots on the deck. So you can create your event. Once you create the event, it'll take you into a backstage. You are given URLs for co-hosts as well as for viewers, so you can pull people into the backstage experience. Next slide. Once you've done that, you'll be entered into the experience. This is the back room, and it can be customized. You can add your logos. anyone who joins, similar to what you would have on a traditional webinar platform, they would be joining you here in private. Have that conversation, go ahead and get started. Once you go live, you can click on that button in the top right corner. It would take you into the actual live webinar experience. Next slide, Brian. There, once you have made it live, you can see who has joined you. There you can see from the screenshot, I was doing this by myself, and then one of my coworkers gladly joined as a viewer to test to make sure that everything was working. It has a chat functionality, just like it does here inside of the Easy Webinar platform. This is a great starting point if you are a business cross-functional stakeholder looking to understand what the Dolby I/O experience is. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Also, if you're a developer from a startup, you're looking to quickly build your own event application, the Dolby I/O Live Event Sample app is a great place to start. It's easy to build on top of, it's easy to use. You can just completely build around it. And if you are looking, and if you're a large enterprise offering webinar platform already, the sample app is a great place to understand how our API works, what our SDK looks like. Not only do we have the sample app, we also have all that sample code available on GitHub. On the next slide, Ryan. You can just navigate right there, github.com, Dolby I/O samples. This is also available on the Dolby I/O website. It's a great place to start if you just want to dive right in and start building rather than testing. Also, that's covers what has come from Dolby I/O for the communications APIs in spring 23. But we also want to talk today about what's coming for summer. We want to start teasing out the feature functionalities and the use cases that we're going to be targeting. The first, we're going to be doing multi-host screen share. So 2 hosts can share their presentations at the same time. That would be great for any kind of cross collaboration. We're also going to be scaling to 49 participant tiles. So if you're doing an e-learning use case, if you're doing a hybrid event and you want to put as many people as possible on that screen, we're going to be scaling to 49 over the summer and working towards 100 participant tiles on screen after that. We're going to be updating how we do multi and dynamic layouts using our mixer. We're going to be launching a new feature called voice fonts. So this is a great feature if you're looking to customize how your voice sounds in a webinar, or if you are a virtual world platform and you want to be able to change your identity, sound a little bit more fun like a robot, Dolby I/O is going to be offering that soon. Another feature is our individual participant recording. So we will be allowing our customers to have both an audio and a video file, or both, if you want to capture that, record it, and then use any kind of additional post-processing. Let's say that you are a subtitle platform, or if you're a podcasting platform, after the recording, you just want that audio, we can give it to you and you can use it however you want afterwards. We're also going to be launching multi-device video. So this allows you to have 2 video input devices into a conference. So let's say that I am an antique collector or seller, and I want my video focusing on me, but I also want it focusing in or zooming in like on a trading card, or if any other object that I want to draw attention to, we can now support, or we will be able to support that. And we're going to be doing additional work around metadata towards the end of summer. So that is a high-level summer roadmap preview. Very excited to announce what we're going to be working on in the coming months. And then I'd like to turn this over to Ryan and Dan, and you guys are going to be taking us through streaming today. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thanks, JC. And I am Ryan, even though my name says Jonathan. And I've got my colleague, Dan Coffey, who's the product manager for the real-time streaming product, the Millicast product. So we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the product updates that we've been working on over the last few months. So one of the exciting ones is a multi-viewer update. So what we've looked to build with this multi-viewer update, we in fact built it for the remote production industry, for people who are needing to get a live feed from broadcast cameras or from their broadcast control center into a web browser and be able to see these live feeds. But this is actually a great use case for audience interactivity as well. And what I'll do is I'll show you a real sample in real time of what this actually looks like. So this is our multi-viewer. This is on our hosted site, and I can go ahead and post this in the chat window. so you guys can interact with it yourself. So this is available on our product page too, but this gives me complete control over each of the videos that I want to see inside of the web browser. So through Easy Webinar, it's showing very choppy, but if you go straight to the URL, you can see this playing back in real time. And this is simulated live content. So we're grabbing 4 concurrent streams. Think that you're shooting a live concert in a venue or a live sporting event, and you're sending that into Millicast, and then we're delivering that all simultaneously into the player. The great thing about this is the user has complete control. So not only can it be great for remote production, but it can be great for audience interactivity to see different angles of their favorite artists, or sporting events like a Formula One race, all once again with less than half a second of latency anywhere in the world. And then one of the great things in here is we've actually built different layouts for the multi-viewer. So similar to a vision mixer or a multi-viewer in a broadcast control center, you can do a 4-up display. We're going to be building additional layouts for this, like a 9-up display and so on. And at any point, you can actually select which view you want to see. So if one of our production customers, they do remote production and the graphics operator wants to actually see just the graphic bug, instead of getting a destructive multi-viewer feed where they can barely see the preview, here I can choose to see the program feed or whatever I want to see coming out from there. The other thing that's interesting with this too is not only can we turn on multi-viewer, we can switch between the different audio sources. So think about this for different raw audio feeds that are coming from cameras, or we could do multi-language or multi-commentary audio delivery to the viewer experience. So, you know, everyone's very excited these days about Manning Cam, the ability to, the Manning brothers in American football. You can hear your own commentary and you can enable these workflows inside of the player experience. Anything you want to add, Dan, to that?
Yeah, like, I think that the other takeaway here is, right, this is a hosted player that we host for you. So if you want to do zero dev work, this is available out of the box, all the functionality that you're seeing, and it can do a whole bunch of sources. You're not limited to just 4, you're not limited to 2. But the real power with our platform too is if you do want to do customization, this is all available as an SDK for JavaScript as well as native devices. So you can build this multi-view experience across devices, across platforms, and customize the layout and the look and feel for whatever kind of interactivity you're looking to enable.
Perfect. The other thing that we're working on, and feel free to ask questions as well. I'm monitoring the chat here to see if you guys have any questions about this. One of the other features that's come from working in remote production is the ability to do a remote monitor. So what we chatted about with a couple of our broadcast partners is, imagine you are at a venue and you're setting up a GoPro with an encoder like next to a basketball hoop, and you can't see the preview of that camera. Traditionally, you'd have to call back to the cloud control center or to the broadcast center, ask them, hey, does the camera look good? You know, with this monitor, you can grab that feed coming off of the encoder into Millicast, and inside of an iOS app or an Android app, you can actually view this on your mobile device in your pocket. So you can get a real-time feed of the camera inside of this free app. And then we've also built one for tvOS. So if you are in the remote production space, you're needing a real-time monitor remotely in another part of the world that can output a nice high-quality feed to a TV, you can use our free app to do this. And the feedback here is a lot of our customers don't want to go and develop their own apps and submit them to the App Store. So you can use our free iOS and tvOS app. And we've just launched this in the Android store as well. And so this chats about that. And then what we've done is, and I think, yeah, we've got this running here. What we've done with
my phone here. Yeah, exactly. I just want to show how easy it is to, you put the stream information in and it is off and running. My internet a second to pull up the stream, but it makes it very easy to actually view that stream out of the box on a native device without having any lift. And as Ryan said, these are available in GitHub as sample code so that you can take these, put your own logos on them, customize that login experience for yourself.
Yeah, and these sample apps, we're actually going to be releasing the code open source so that people can grab them and then very easily white label them and submit them themselves to the Google or Apple stores. So another great feature is we've done an integration with Singular Live. And Singular Live is a very popular HTML5 graphics package. And we have some demos here, and we have a blog as well. And Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to stop my screen share, and you can actually show a real-time demo of how this works.
Sounds good. Give me just a moment to bring it up. I'm going to share
The
my
great thing about
screen.
Singular Live is that you can generate graphics client side on the playback side of things, which gives a lot of control over what you can do with your particular streams. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Dan.
so for the first demo, I've got the same stream that Ryan had up earlier, just in, this is our Vue.js player. So we have a Vue.js plugin. If you're a Vue.js developer, you want to just take our hosted player and get all of the niceties that we have in it. You're welcome to take that off the shelf. And we've just done an integration where we have added into that Vue.js plugin the Singular Live. So on the left is that video playing back. On the right is the control interface for Singular Live. And simply here, we're just going to put up a banner on the client side about the Free Nationals, who's the band that's playing here. So it's a way to engage with your audience in this mode. This is all being rendered on the client side. So Singular has done this really ingenuitive thing where these graphics are all vector-based. They scale nicely, and you have complete control. This is their Uno interface, but they have a more advanced interface as well. And again, this allows you in real time, as I trigger this on the interface, all web-driven, on the client side, this is being rendered here. So that's the way to do this with the client side. You can add interactivity, you can add personalization, you could do custom advertising. There's really unique ways that this could be used. But the other way to do this is imagine you're using something like OBS. So let's say we have a soccer game and I'm the bug operator. I need to do the scoreboard. So I'm going to flip over to this here. And so what we have inside of the Singular interface is just a web view, because Singular Live is implemented as HTML and CSS. And so this web view is rendered over the top of my video screen. With my internet, I'm not going to even attempt to stream while we're on the call here, but if I turn on the overlay, right, I can see the bug come up, and in real time in OBS, and again with our OBS WebRTC, this is our real-time streaming implementation of OBS that adds WebRTC for real time. And now, as the operator, I can come in here, I can change the score, and then this is what is being streamed out with these graphics being burned in real time to the workflow. So kind of two different ways that you can utilize this technology. One where you have a single stream that it's burned into, and one where you're overlaying it at the client side.
Yeah, and the part that's really interesting here, I think the more compelling one is the one doing it client side in our player. Dan and I are considering building this functionality into our hosted player so that people can use this out of the box without having to build it inside of the JavaScript SDK or the Vue plugin. But the wonderful thing here is that Singular Live actually adds a layer of interactivity. You can do things like polls, trivia, build interactive advertisements, and so on. So each viewer can get a unique experience that they can interact with in the web browser natively. So it's like a new way to do graphics that don't necessarily get burnt in to the linear feed, right, from OBS or from your vision mixer. All right, if you want to stop sharing, I'll go ahead and continue.
Right.
All right, let me go back to my slides here. So that's the Singular Live integration, and we have this program that we've launched called the Strategic Alliances Program at Dolby.io, and we're trying to work very closely with different vendors in this space to add embedded functionality between their products and ours. And Singular Live is one of those examples. Another one is an integration we've done with Maestro. So Maestro.io is a platform for content creators and artists to monetize their own value in their content. So I'll give you an example. Someone who's in esports or who is streaming gaming on Twitch, Twitch keeps a lot of that value, right, of what you're streaming. Or if you try to stream through Facebook Live, the ads on Facebook Live, you only get a commission off of that. So what Maestro allows you to do is completely own your own brand without being a web designer, without being a professional developer or coder. They can allow you to monetize and create a landing page and an entire experience that intersects with live streaming and broadcast content. So from that broadcast perspective, we've done an integration to add Dolby.io real-time streaming in Maestro as an available live streaming provider. And they have integrated with others, but the great thing you get with Dolby.io obviously is that real-time side. So you can then start creating more interactivity with your live streams and your audience. So a nice correlation here between, what you see, what you get, web page builder built into the browser, as well as an entire monetization layer coupled with our live streaming as well. And yeah, there's going to be more coming with our integration with Maestro as we build additional features into the live streaming workflows in our product. Another integration that we've done recently through this Alliances program is with PubNub. So PubNub is an industry leader in real-time data, and that means a lot of things. It means you can do real-time chat and build chat into these experiences. You can do real-time presence monitoring. There's a lot that you can do with their products. Their chat API is where we've started. We've actually, one of our colleagues, Braden, did this integration where he integrated the PubNub chat API into a Millicast live stream so you could easily do this. And we've built, he wrote a technical blog and has sample code available. So you guys can take this example and go build it very quickly into a browser experience. Another place where we've done an integration is in the Unity plugins, the Unity game engine. We'll chat more about Unity in a bit with our plugins, but this allows you to real-time stream into Unity or out of Unity with the Millicast plugins. But PubNub can also add a chat feature or real-time gamification features with real-time data inside of their Unity plugin as well. So it's another way to add very simple social interaction into your PubNub and Dolby.io experience. And with Unity, we have for a couple of years now had Unreal Engine plugins with Millicast. This allows you to do two things. One is to stream into a Unity plugin. So you could grab a broadcast stream and render it inside of a big screen or a TV monitor, or grab your webcam feed and render it to a layer so that you can create a real video avatar face inside of the game engine. So that's our player plugin for Unity. We also have a publisher plugin, which allows you to grab the rendered output that's running in the cloud of the game engine of Unity, and then stream that to hundreds of thousands of viewers through the Millicast platform. So both those plugins are very easy to use. It takes you 5 minutes to install and get a stream up and running with our Unity plugins. And yeah, our customers are using this to create digital twins. So the idea of a virtual concert or some kind of virtual live event. And then I think there's going to be a lot of evolution in the kind of customer experiences they're building through Unity. And to add to that, not only do we have Unity, we have Unreal Engine as well that we've had now for a couple of years. And we have launched the Unreal Engine 5.1 plugins as an update just a couple of months ago. So Unreal Engine and Unity are both being used depending on what developers prefer. And this is very easy to get up and running and build this experience very similar to Unity. The biggest update here is the fact we've worked very closely with the Unreal Engine team and the pixel streaming team at Unreal Engine to add H.264 real-time encoding into the experience. Previously, you had to use VP8 only in software to encode video, and that limited you on the quality side. With H.264, you can now use hardware with NVIDIA NVENC on a cloud instance to encode and do hardware acceleration with H.264 and put that inside of the Millicast stream. So that's a really interesting addition to this plugin as well. Do you have anything to add on that, Dan?
I do. So also coming soon with the H.264, we're adding the ability to do simulcast with H.264 as well. So that's coming soon. And both with Unity, we made a bunch of prefabs. So if you're a Unity developer, prefabs allow you to take something off the shelf. You can do essentially a no-code solution. You can go to your Millicast dashboard. You can take your stream credentials. You plug them in into the interface for your publisher or your player plugin, and you're off and running. There's almost no development to do. And in Unreal Engine, we do the same thing with blueprints. So if you're a blueprint developer on Unreal, that's the mechanism for engaging with our plugins.
Yeah, so Stephen's got a good question, which how do our plugins work together? So this is a great distinction, is we actually offer two different products for the game engine market. One is our Millicast plugins, which I just chatted about, which is to stream in and out of a game engine, whether it be Unity or Unreal. The other plugins are our communication API plugins. So Jonathan, at the beginning of the presentation, chatted about the communication API updates. And what that allows you to do is do real-time video and audio communication. So think of a watch party, think of chatting to people in a virtual space. We have built spatial audio plugins with the Dolby I/O communication API plugins for both Unreal Engine and Unity that allow you to turn left and right and chat to people around you. JC, I don't know if you have more information you want to share on that.
No, that's pretty thorough. But the idea is with both of these plugins, both from the streaming side as well as the communication side, able to scale interactivity not just by taking media in inside, injecting media in or out of a conference, but also the communication layer between people within that experience. And that's something that Dolby IO is better able to do than almost anyone on the market.
Yeah, I'll just say, like with the communications piece, if you've ever done audio spatialization in a game, game engines are not very good at this. Like they had this kind of notion of you turn your head and things move, but when you get groups of people talking and the fall off as you move away from one group to another, it's a very difficult problem to solve. And that's one area that we really differentiate in if you're looking to engage with multiple people inside of a game engine.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this is as you move around a 3D space, you have the XYZ coordinates that are unique to each avatar or each attendee or viewer, right, inside that space. The great thing about the way the spatial audio works, there's a unique spatial mixer that's unique to every individual in that space. So that's really where the technology is. It's not everyone's getting the same mix coming out. Everyone gets a unique mix, and this could be a mix of both audio inside the game engine as well as voices that are being talked about within. So that kind of unique spatial mixer that works in real time and adapts to your environment is really the unique offering here that you don't get natively with the game engines themselves. All right, so some other updates. So one of the things, if you guys have been a long time Millicast customer and now are, it's a Dolby IO real-time streaming product, our dashboard has needed a lot of help. And we have actually done a lot of updates to improve the dashboard experience. So what I'm going to do is actually walk through some of these updates in the dashboard very quickly, because it's always nice to see this in real time. So in the dashboard, when you log in, the first thing you'll notice, and I'll just zoom in here for a bit, is we've built a much cleaner interface. When you log in here for the first time, you will actually get a sample token that you can start broadcasting right away. And then at the bottom, you have these getting started resources that give you some easy information to integrate Millicast with your streaming workflow. The other thing, it was very hard to know exactly how much usage you had on your account. We've had this information here, which tells you how much usage you've used in a given billing period, and that's available in here as well. Now, one of the best things that we've done is if I come into one of these publishing tokens, is if you guys remember, there was just all the information was available just on one page, and we've segmented this in a much more usable way. We have the information on the publishing token, as you can see here. Then we can actually create individual streams. As we create streams, we can name the streams ourselves. This was always available in the API, but we've now made it available inside the dashboard. So now I can give, very logical names to my streams. As I add a camera 1, I can add a camera 2, and now I have stream names that I can use and use inside the product very simply. The other thing that we can do when we create streams is we can still use the randomizer, which we've had previous. And then we can also set a wildcard, which means if you have a correct publishing token, you can send whatever streams that you want in here. On the publishing tab, this is where you send data into or live streams into the Millicast platform. Here we have obviously our WIP integration, which is WebRTC native. We have our RTMP information. One thing that's great here is we have the ability to turn on and off the multi-bit rate. So if you want to send us multiple high, medium, and low from your encoder, we already support that in here. Yep, so that's all that information. Really quickly, within the streams, we can switch in between the different streams in here as well. So right now I've got the camera 2 information, but if I switch to camera 1, that changes the publish token and the ingest information for each of those particular things. And we'll talk about SRT in a bit. We've added SRT ingest as a protocol. On the playback side, you guys will recognize most of this. we have the ability to now configure all of this directly in here. So, if we want to remove the autoplay button, or we want to, remove the live badge that appears up here, or the user count, I can do that all in here. And all it does is change the parameters in here to do that inside the iframe or inside of the hosted player path as well. So very, very simple. We've added an offline image. So if you want to include a preview image for the player when it's not live, that can be linked to your own S3 account or some web location. And then we also have recording. And then finally, the API. This is what we had available on that previous page before. And so it's much easier to kind of get all of this segmented with however much detail you want. The other thing we've done in the analytics section is by default, we pull up your billing period. So my billing period happens to start April 11th, and it's showing me that for the last 2 weeks through today. If your billing period started, a month ago, it would show you all the usage for a month. But at any point, you can change this range, and you can, select whatever you want and look at your usage for that time period pretty easily. And so all this information is still very similar to what it was previous. It's just a little bit more logical to consume. And then on that side, the billing side is quite interesting too. We've actually added a much better snapshot of what your actual usage is in a given month from a billing perspective. And in here, we've added your billing information, and we've actually added all of your invoices. So this is something that all of our customers were asking for as well. Anything else I missed there, Dan?
Those are the big ones for sure. I think the stream creation tab and everything you kind of got crammed into that API tab, and tearing that apart and making it much more logical of a flow, I think has made a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's talk about some other updates. So one of the big ones is the fact that we have launched the Millicast platform on Oracle Cloud as an additional cloud vendor. So primarily the reason we've done this is to be able to keep evolving Millicast to a point where it can scale to extremely large audiences, over 1 million viewers. And Oracle, we've been running since our beginning on DigitalOcean as a cloud provider. Oracle gives us a little bit more power to be able to get to those larger scales. The other thing that Oracle has is a lot more data centers throughout the world. So as we look to add new data centers, in the last year, we've added India, we've added Singapore, Amsterdam. As we look to add additional ones in South America and in Africa and Middle East and Australia, this Oracle gives us those regions to give us a little bit more options to deploy in places where our customers need it, to keep bringing our latency down further and further. So another feature that you might have seen really quickly, I'll kind of go through this, is the ability to create thumbnails from ingest streams in Millicast. So we have had a need from a couple of customers to create a preview image of a live stream that's sent to us. So what you can do now is, regardless of the ingest format, you're sending us SRT, RTMP, or WebRTC or WIP, we can create a thumbnail, and then we can place those thumbnails in a location that you tell us. So this is like an S3 bucket. So we can grab that preview image, drop it in there, and you can embed that inside of a little preview window. So you can create a page that has 20 previews, but until you click on one of them, it doesn't actually show you the playback of the stream itself. So it's just a more elegant way to show you, preview thumbnails of all the streams coming in. Did I miss anything there, Dan? Pretty simple. And I mentioned this in the dashboard. Adding SRT is fast becoming the replacement for RTMP as a contribution protocol. So we have become a part of the SRT Alliance, which is now 600 members. And we have added SRT ingest into our platform. So this allows us to do very similar to how you would send us RTMP. You can now send us SRT there. And the benefit of SRT is that even though it's over UDP, it makes it work more like TCP with some reliability and resiliency in the contribution protocol. One of the things that we're going to do with SRT is add encryption as well, so that you can send us encrypted content over SRT. We do this for RTMP already with RTMP-S, but we are going to be adding SRT encryption in the near future, hopefully, so that you can do that encrypted contribution into Millicast as well. To add to that, we have this auto ingest feature. So this works for both SRT and RTMP, where imagine you have an encoder like a Teradek encoder or a Videon encoder or an Osprey encoder, and you are using RTMP. As you ship it around to different locations for different live events, you don't always want to configure where you want to stream that into to create the best ingest latency for contribution from the venue. So this, when you create a publishing token, you can create an auto feature for auto SRT and RTMP, where we will detect the IP of the device and we will route you to the closest ingest node. So we've done this as a first step in creating a much more intelligent content delivery network with the Millicast platform. And to add to this, we have the
Ryan?
auto. Yep.
Do we want to clarify what Millicast is in relation to Dolby I/O real-time streaming?
Yes. So with Dolby, Dolby I/O, for those of you who are not aware, acquired the Millicast product about 1.5 years ago. And we use Millicast and real-time streaming interchangeably, but they are the same product. So the reason we kind of default back to Millicast is that we still use those URLs, and that's kind of internally what we call the product. But when you go to the Dolby I/O website, the real-time streaming product is, in essence, the Millicast product. And Dan, do you want to chat about this feature? I think you know more about this than I do.
Yeah, this goes hand in hand with the previous feature for the auto publishing. So basically, what happened previously was a limitation where when your viewer connected and was waiting for a stream to start, we would hard code which data center they got routed to consume that stream. And so we've changed that behavior so that if you're doing a protected stream or using a stream token to allow access, now we'll connect the user once the stream starts. So we'll let the user sit there and wait for the stream to start. And it was a slight change in architecture and a slight change in behavior so that we could allow you as a publisher to publish to the nearest data center without needing to know where it was. And on the flip side, allow the end viewer to connect to the closest to the same data center without having to worry about which one it was. So a little bit of a technical limitation here that we had cornered ourselves into. So we have kind of resolved that. And the whole point of it is that you can use protected streams, set everything to auto, and not worry about where data centers are. Just have the optimal experience now.
Yeah, and this is part of the work that we're doing. By the end of this year, we want to do what we call geo-cascading for playback. So the idea there is if you're streaming into our US West Coast data center in Phoenix, but someone is viewing the stream in Tokyo, they're not having to connect all the way back to the US West Coast. They can be consuming a stream from the closest edge node. So that would be like Singapore in this instance. So ultimately, all these features that we're building are leading towards that direction of creating a much more lower latent and more resilient origin edge network within our content delivery network. And this is a big feature that affects especially customers that use us in high volumes, is previously to create that level of security for someone who views a stream, we had to pull our API. So you had to hit the Millicast API to be able to get back a playback token for someone to subscribe to a stream. What we've done now is we've re-engineered that so that you only have to create one for a token, master token, and then you are in charge of creating all the individual logic for each viewer that views that stream within your own product. So this is much more efficient. If you have 100,000 viewers on a stream, you don't have to hit our API 100,000 times. You can manage that internally with your own structure. So it's a much more efficient system that's going to remove one of those bottlenecks for larger events. And the stream syndication feature, Dan, do you want to chat through this? You've been kind of leading this charge.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of customers who basically syndicate their content across multiple providers, right? So you think of us like a CDN. You as kind of the owner of the content want to stream through Ryan and stream through JC, and they're each going to have their own customers, and they're each going to consume bandwidth, and we need to know how to charge them. And so we've broken this work into 3 phases, the first 2 of which are complete. And that is where, 1, you can now generate these self-signed tokens because you're probably generating stream protection for a large number of consumers, and you don't want to be calling our API every single time for every single token. We've made that part easy, as Ryan talked about earlier. Phase 2, we've added this notion of a tracking ID. So inside of those tokens, the stream protection tokens, or subscriber tokens as we call them, you can add a key called tracking ID, and I can add one for Ryan, just call it Ryan. I can add one for JC and say JC. And then from our analytics and our GraphQL API, I'm able to query and say, hey, how many people joined and were consuming data from Ryan, and how many consumed from JC, and I can get the amount of bandwidth consumed by each, number of viewers, those kinds of statistics. So it's easy for me as the owner of the content who needs to bill my customers to figure out how much data was consumed. I can work out my own, billing rates with them, and then make it easy to get a report on that. So that's really the heart of that work. The phase 3 that's coming, we're targeting next month. Hopefully it'll come on time. It might slip into June. It depends a little bit. But what that's going to be is to get a detailed report. So right now you kind of get these aggregated statistics, but what we've been asked for by several customers is to be able to say, hey, when, like Ryan says, I need to add additional metadata to my viewer. So I've got viewer A, B, and C, and I want to give them a label, each viewer individually as A, B, and C. And JC might have the same thing with different metadata. So what we're going to allow is the ability to insert that customized metadata into the viewer token as well. We'll actually record that for every single view connection. We'll get start stop times, all of the kind of geolocation information, everything you might expect to know, like, hey, how many people connected, where were they, and also just pass me back this custom metadata. I need to parse it in my business intelligence system. And so what we'll do is give the ability to generate those reports, and we'll end up writing them out to your bucket so that you can parse that data later. Those will be kind of raw viewer data as CSV or JSON. And so that part is coming soon.
Perfect. Another big feature that our customers have been asking for is if you ever wanted to deliver adaptive bitrate, meaning high, medium, and low, or multiple renditions to the player so they can adapt to their internet speeds or the device that they're on. We've never had that automatically within the real-time streaming platform. You've had to send us all 3 of those streams to Millicast. So what we've now added is for certain customers who want to not to send us 3 streams from the streamer, they can send us 1 high quality stream, and we can create an origin transcoder that will create the high, medium, and low versions to deliver out. So in that workflow, you send us, let's say 1080p full HD, and we will encode a 720 version and a 480 version, the lower resolutions, and then package those all together to the viewer. So that way the viewer gets all the benefits of that simulcast or adaptive bitrate playback without you having to worry about sending that from your venue. So it's the way that most live streaming workflows work these days for traditional streaming protocols. We've now added this additional layer of simplicity. The thing though is currently this is only available to customers who ask for it because we have to create this manually. Eventually we do want to automate this and build this into the platform. And keep in mind, this is actually creating a specific cloud computer for you to do this. There's going to be an additional cost associated with it. So in the short term, we're enabling this or allowing this for customers who want to stream monthly and have 24/7 streams. Eventually, you'd be able to use this on a per use basis, like for a live event that lasts 3 hours or so on and so forth. So yeah, that's going to be a product we've started, but it's going to be built into the actual dashboard and make available in the next few months. And then this is, one of the great things about Dolby acquiring Millicast is the amount of investment that we've made in our architecture. Something that a lot of our providers or a lot of our customers have always asked for is, can I send you 2 redundant streams, and if one fails over, it can fall back to the other one. So this is the ability to send us 2 separate streams. In this workflow, to have true redundancy is right here. You would want this over one internet connection and this over another. These 2 encoders, or it would be here actually. So here's the ingest from the raw ingest from the camera, let's say an SDI capture. And then this is one internet connection, this is another, coming into 2 separate ingest regions in Millicast. And then at the player level, we will fall back in between these. So imagine something happens with this server, which is extremely rare with Millicast, or something breaks here in your internet connection. It will go ahead and fail over to the backup at the player level. So that redundant ingest is something that's needed for people who want a tier 1 service that's not going to fail during a high value event. And then Dan, do you want to chat about this? I think this is our last thing before we break.
Yeah, I don't want to call this a minor update because it's important, but we have a React Native SDK. So if you're a React Native developer targeting Android and iOS, we do have both sample apps and an SDK for you. We added additional sample apps, or in the sample app, we've updated them and added the publisher and subscriber examples. They're pretty fully featured, and we had a big update to these. So these are now out and available.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work that we've done around client side, both broadcaster and player. So we have a Vue.js plugin, which I think you guys might be familiar with. We've done a lot of work around our JavaScript SDK. We've done a lot of work around our iOS and Android SDKs as well that are native. But with React Native, it's obviously one of the most popular frameworks. So it's much easier to get up and running with a sample app and launch your product in record time. And to that point, I think this is our last slide, which is we've built a plugin for Video.js. So Video.js is the world's most popular open source player. It's available, on hundreds of thousands of websites. So, with the Video.js plugin, it's been working with HLS and Dash as traditional streaming protocols, but we've added support for WEP. And WEP, for those of you who are not familiar, just like we have WIP for standardizing broadcasting, we have WEP for standardizing playback from a WebRTC service. And the WEP spec is something we co-wrote with ByteDance. So there's a lot of adoption with WEP and a lot of providers. So if you want to add WebRTC real-time streaming into your player experience on your website or in your product, and you already have Video.js, you can use this plugin and use a WEP URL to play back from any publishing token. So it really makes it easy for you to add real-time streaming services into your existing products or website with this plugin.
Yeah, and so this plugin isn't actually launched yet. If we're being honest, it's coming up very soon. But the other thing is that with Video.js, we are taking this kind of broadcast and video streaming first approach to WebRTC. Like traditionally, WebRTC has been known as this kind of video conferencing technology, but what we've seen is it can be so much more by allowing things like SRT ingest, RTMP ingest, and then by standardizing the way to play in and play out of a service. And that's what WIP and WEP do. And by plugging in with a well-used video player from the streaming industry, like Video.js, we're really trying to push the adoption and the growing up, if you will, of WebRTC for these use cases.
And that is it, JC. I'll pass it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Dan. We have about 5 minutes left in the hour that we scheduled for today's presentation. Does anyone have any questions about what was presented today? Communications, streaming, what Dolby.io is trying to do in this space? I think now is a great opportunity to just go ahead and drop that in the chat, and we can spend a couple of minutes answering that question.
Do we get a visit from your dogs while we wait here, JC?
I can. Now the garbage people are actually out across the street, and they're both glued to the front window. I don't even think they would come right now if I offered food. There's too much activity outside. But if there's no questions, I am happy to always give time back to people's calendars. I know we're all very busy recently. So a special thank you, Ryan. Special thank you, Dan, for joining today to help present what's new and exciting on the Dolby.io platform. To everyone joined on the call, oh wait, we have a question. In your new online live event solution, will it be possible to access each participant video camera by NDI and use them in a video mixer software like Vimix, like in Microsoft Teams or Zoom? That's a great question, Caesar. Let me actually take a note of that. I don't have the answer off the top of my head. Let me sync with our product engineering team and come back with an update. I think I have your contact information from the registration, and I can just shoot you a note probably end of this week. How's that sound?
Well, I can probably take a quick stab at this as well. So, I mean, obviously our live event solution, well, if it's local, so NDI can be made as a virtual source inside the browser. you need some software to do this. But the NDI tools, I think, allow you to map this to a virtual camera that you can then pull in as a source inside the web browser. So that is possible. What you're looking to do, though, like OBS has there's a product called OBS Ninja, which allows you to grab a WebRTC playback inside the browser and use that as a source inside of OBS. It's kind of a hack, but it's kind of a way to do this virtually. So if you're trying to pull in a remote contribution source from another, let's say like Dan right now, I need to grab his video into my local vMix, but he's remote. OBS Ninja allows you to do that. There's no elegant way to do that right now in vMix or a lot of these mixers. So NDI, funnily enough, is something that is good for local networks. It's not great for remote. Dan and I are in fact thinking a lot about this, and we may have a solution for this in the future where you can pull virtual NDI sources remotely and pull them into remote sources like vMix. But for the product that you're talking about, Cesar, like the easiest way to do this currently, you're asking two things. One is NDI into vMix. The second is, can I use NDI as a source inside of a WebRTC capture device? The second one, yes, you can with an NDI tool. The first one of pulling NDI remotely through vMix is something much more complicated that you have to map through a different piece of software. So for that, we have our version of OBS, which isn't great, but it allows you to pull in NDI and stream WebRTC that then you can use as a source. But a lot of the industry is trying to figure this out. How can I pull in remote sources virtually? That wasn't a great answer, but Dan, maybe you can clarify that.
I can just add a little bit on the online events product. So this uses our communications mixer in the backend. So what the architecture is like you've got the communications platform up front. You get everybody in that way. Like Ryan said, I think it's possible to get NDI in the browser. That's the kind of the asterisk I think that we have as far as the question goes. But once you're there, you have full control over the layout with our comms mixer, as we call it internally. And so that's just HTML and CSS that defines a layout, and all the streams get composited in the cloud with that mixer and then get sent out via the real-time streaming product. So that's the kind of full integration with this online event solution. So you do have full control over that. You could dynamically work with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to change layouts, but essentially that's how that solution works today.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Dan, for helping on that. Caesar, did that answer your question?
I think too, if like Caesar wants to follow up and we can talk more through the actual workflow, we could find a path, but better for offline.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. We are now at the top of the hour. Have a great morning, afternoon, wherever you're joining us from, and looking forward to seeing you all on the next seasonal release webinar. We will be going through everything that was new and exciting for the summer timeframe. Expect information coming about that in the coming months. Have a great day. Bye-bye.